Hey guys, what's up? It's Ash. On my Instagram stories, I asked you to share what you struggle with most as creatives. First of all, thank you. I love the responses that you guys gave. I know that it can be super vulnerable to admit some of these things, but you'd be surprised how many people actually share a lot of your most common anxieties when it comes to making. So I've been making some short TikTok videos on how to handle some of the issues you guys brought up, but I'm gonna be real, like having my thoughts on some of these things condensed into a minute is kind of stupid. Like, I want to be able to actually explain some of this stuff in depth with you, just like we're having a conversation and a friend is walking you through how to solve a really tough problem in your life. So there were a few responses that came in that kind of relate to the same topic, which is, how do you consistently create, not just when you feel like creating? What's the secret there? Like, how do you kind of get yourself into this creative zone when you need to be there? So let's actually break this down at its core. I'm going to give you guys specific actions you can take and build into your routine in order to be a more consistent creative. But first, it's important we really break down what's going on mentally when this problem arises. Now, we're gonna kind of start this whole thing off by talking about a D word, not the fun one, but one that you've probably heard mentioned so many times, and it might make your eye roll when I mentioned it, but it's discipline. Now, hold on. Discipline might be something you've heard before, but it's actually more important than ever because we live in a society where it seems like discipline isn't required. Now, what I mean by this is that even if on a conscious level you are aware that you should be disciplined and it should be something that you're embodying, if you actually look at what we're shown in our society, you're not given a lot of reason to build discipline. We have this fame-obsessed culture that is always trying to get some viral video out there, right? We have entire apps now built on this concept of going viral. And when you constantly are bombarded on social media, your phone, not that we really watch TV as much as we watch our phone now, but even on TV, you're just always shown these examples of people that blow up instantly, or they do this one thing and everything changes, or they suddenly like alter their appearance dramatically and everything changes for them. We're constantly shown these really poor examples of not really needing work ethic and not really needing anything except chance to get a result. And even if we know that there's always more to the story, when you're shown this over and over and over again, and you're looking at this feed of images constantly coming out and it just seems like people are always in this high state of productivity that you'll never catch up, how are you really supposed to think that discipline is the answer? So I know that was a little bit of an explanation, but if we really break this down, you have no reason to want to be disciplined. You are already exhausted by the time you turn on your phone 15 minutes into your day. So understand that we're gonna talk about how to actually build discipline, but if you feel like it's eluding you, it's because our society isn't really giving us great examples of having a work ethic and having discipline and having it actually rewarded. So that's the first little point. But the second thing I want to go into is actually how you're viewing your creativity itself. So, yes, we need discipline, but think about it this way. If you had a job that you absolutely hated and you were put on a shift, what did you do? You showed up to work. Did you want to? No. Did you curse out your boss mentally a million times? Maybe. Did you grumble and complain and have a terrible attitude throughout the day? Maybe. But the point is, you were on the schedule, so you showed up. And that was to build somebody else's dream. You were not showing up to that job to pursue your truth, to pursue your passion, to pursue your talents. You had that job for whatever reason that you needed it, and you showed up simply because you had to. You were put on the schedule. So, if you think about that, and you think about the fact that you've put yourself through things you did not feel like doing just because that's what you had to do, then it's a little bit easier to apply it to something you actually love. So think about it this way. If you're an artist or some other form of creative, and you are producing things, and that is something that matters to you, I assume if you're a creative person, you're also probably very passionate about what you do and you care about what you do. And the fact is that if you are one of the people that is like so blessed to get to actually pursue your gift, how dare you not show up for that? You've shown up for people that don't care about you. You've shown up for people that have nothing to do with your larger goals for yourself. They were just maybe you showed up for like a retail job, or maybe you showed up to some other obligation. You have so many times in your life just shown up when you've had to. So if this is actually something that matters, Why can't you show up for this? And that's not me calling you out. It's me reminding you that anytime you have that feeling of, God, I don't want to do this, or you start procrastinating by making up all these imaginary tasks you have to do before you just sit down and paint, I want you to come back to this thought. I want you to really sit down and say, well, wait a minute. This matters to me. I can show up for this. I don't feel like it, but I don't have to feel like it. Because sitting down to do this task, even if it's boring, even if I don't feel inspired, even if I feel like I suck at painting today, me sitting down and doing this is me showing up for myself. I'm committing to myself. And to take this a step further, you can actually schedule yourself for a shift. Schedule an 8-hour shift, a 4-hour shift, a 6-hour shift, a 12-hour shift. Look, it's gonna be different for everybody based on the amount of workload that you have, based on how you work as a person. But if you think about it, we really do like that 9-to-5 mentality. Even if we curse it and say we hate it, maybe like's the wrong word. What I should say is a lot of us are used to having a 9-to-5 obligation at some point in our lives. So if you actually schedule time for your art and you force yourself to sit down and do it, just like you used to force yourself to get up and go to a shift at your job, or maybe you still work a job you hate, and what do? You just show up. You may not feel 100%, you may not feel 100%, you may not want to be there at all, but you do show up. And this is your purpose, so you have to show up for this. Schedule the time to actually show up and make yourself do it. And this kind of leads in to, imagine this, another point. So especially with social media being so present now in our culture and day to day, it's very highly regarded to be putting out content often, right? If you're productive and you're constantly putting stuff out there, that's viewed as positive. And because of this, we sometimes disproportionately value what productivity actually looks like. It's weird, right? It's like we're showing all these examples that discipline isn't necessarily required, even though on some level we know that it is, and we are also told that work ethic's important. But despite all these contradictions and seeing like the instant gratification culture of social media, we also, on the same token, really obsess over being productive and being successful and being this machine of just pumping content out. By valuing this idealized version of yourself where you are productive, you are always in the zone, you are constantly producing art, because you're viewing this as this high thing to attain, and you actually might not even associate yourself with the identity of being this person, so you're really putting it on a pedestal. What happens is you view the whole process as idealized. So you're thinking like, yeah, if I'm productive, I'm aligned, I have this secret, I'm always feeling good, and it is just flowing. But let's get real with life. Most of the time, you're not gonna feel like doing anything. You're not gonna feel like being there. You're not gonna feel creative or inspired or good. We're human beings. One of the shittiest things that we do to ourselves is beat ourselves up for not feeling motivated or not feeling good or wondering why we don't feel good. The fact is, if you want certain things in this life, so you want to be producing art at a certain level, you want to be creating content at a certain level, great. We can get you to that point. You can totally create to that level, but don't also hold yourself to this standard that it has to feel good, because it might not. At your core, the range of emotions you're experiencing in life right now are still going to be present, whether you're 10 times more productive or 10 times less productive. To put it another way, things don't have to feel good to get done. It's not when I feel motivated, I will do this, so how do I feel motivated? It's I have to do this, so I'm going to do this. It's okay if I don't feel motivated. Trying to figure out how to constantly be in that state or how to get yourself into that state is actually part of the problem. It's just this subtle mindset shift we have to make. Because here's the thing, like if you feel like, oh my God, like why can I only create when I feel like it? Like why can't I create when I want to? Already you're kind of setting yourself up for having this belief that, oh, like I need the secret, like I need the key to get myself to this place. But here's the thing, you don't need to be in that place to create. You don't need to be motivated to create. You don't need to feel good to create. It's not about how it feels, it's about that it gets done. Relying on motivation is dangerous because it's such a fickle thing. But if you rely on discipline and you rely on the schedule and routine you've committed to, so relying on commitment, that's a choice you make. You're not waiting to feel anything. You've just decided, hey, Tuesday from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., we're working on painting. It's okay if I suck the whole time. It's okay if I feel like shit, but this is what we're doing. We're scheduling time, and this is when I'm gonna create. This is it. I have to do this. Doesn't matter how I feel. I gotta do this. And I know that's not a fun answer, but the fact is, we have to get rid of this belief that there's some secret to motivation. Motivation sucks. Fuck motivation. No. Decide what you have to get done, break up how you're gonna do it, and do it regardless of how you feel. Now, hopefully that rant was helpful. But what we're gonna talk about now is like, what are actual things you can do to consistently produce? The first thing is make yourself an actual work schedule. You need to do this. If you're self-employed, there's nobody that's gonna show up. There's not like a manager that's gonna show up and be like, hey, you missed your shift on Tuesday. What was that about? One more time and you're fired. That doesn't happen. So you have to be that person. You have to accept accountability and you have to start scheduling time. The second thing, now, there's a little bit of a trick that we can actually apply. It's not a secret, but it can kind of help you a little bit. We're gonna Pavlov's dog your creative process. So Pavlov's dog, if you're not familiar already, was the experiment where the scientist Pavlov presented dogs with food. When the dogs had the food presented to them, of course they salivated in anticipation of the food, and every time they salivated due to the food being presented, he rung a bell. Now over time, he actually was able to get it so that whenever he rung the bell, the dogs would salivate even when there wasn't food presented. Now what the hell does this have to do with art? Well, we can do something similar to your creative process. So the next time that you do actually feel that state of focus that you'd like to replicate, every time you're painting and drawing for a period of time and you're actually locked into what you're doing, I need you to just take a little moment and play a instrumental playlist that gives you happy feelings of 2 to 3 songs and repeat it the entire time that you're creating until you're finished. Do not play this song in any other context. These songs are specifically reserved for every time you sit down and are working and focused on a project. Bonus, you can also put a certain scent in the air. Now this should be a scent you control, so it should be like a perfume or an essential oil or basically something that you won't commonly encounter out in the world, something that you control in your studio space. You have it in the air as you're creating. Now, over time, because this isn't gonna take 1 or 2 times, it's gonna take 5, 6, 7, potentially more times to do this, but you can have this scent in the air and have this music playing on repeat every time that you're in that state, so that on those days that you really do not feel like creating, you can actually play that playlist and have the scent in the air, and it can trigger a little bit more of a focus response. Now, this isn't a magic bullet, so I'm not saying that this is suddenly gonna make you the most productive person ever, but give yourself about 6 months to a year to substantially increase your productivity, and having this tiny little trick might actually help you on those days that you're really having a tough time staying focused. That one's a little weird, but a more normal one is, in addition to making that schedule, to maybe like psyching yourself out with the Pavlov's dog trick, what we're also gonna do is give yourself a little reminder as to why you're creating. So the purpose behind all this. Look, like a task you don't feel like doing is not great motivation. What can be helpful is write down somewhere in as few or as many words as you need why you're making art. What is the purpose behind this? And make a separate list of the things that you gain by being a consistent artist. Also, a list of what you lose by being an artist that procrastinates and does not get done what you need to each day. Having these in a clear space that you read every day or every time before you start a process or a project is going to be important. Look, we're all just a bunch of like living, breathing emotional responses and mental processes. So if you can psych yourself out of doing art, you can also psych yourself right back into doing it. This was totally sort of just done me sitting down and talking about a lot of the things that I do, a lot of the things I see others do, and a lot of the things that just came to mind. I wanted it to be organic because I want you to be able to come back to this video so that it's like you're talking to a friend. So that every time that you feel flustered and you're like, what do? You can just have somebody systematically break down what's going on and have it feel like someone's talking you through what the hell to do. Because sometimes that just feels better when it doesn't feel like everything's resting on you and your ability to create. That's so much pressure, and I get it. My final tip, and I know we've kind of covered it throughout it, but it is important, shift the identity thing, like believing that being a productive person is an identity, or being a prolific artist is an identity. It's not someone you're born as. Are there some people that have a higher ability to focus and a higher ability to commit to things naturally? Of course. That does not mean you can't create it. So don't view yourself as somebody that just cannot get to this space. Understand that just like you got better at art, you can also get better at being disciplined with the art. You're never gonna feel like doing it. You're almost never gonna feel like doing it. You have to make yourself do it anyway. and I hope this was helpful. If it was not, then yell at me in the comments, I guess, but otherwise, I would love to make more videos like these. Thank you so much, guys, for sending your responses in. If you ever need anything and you just want something covered more in depth, ask me. I'd be happy to go over it and help you break it down. I'm Ash. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you create a life that inspires you to create today. Bye!